It's episode 89 of Unstuck, and today we're going to switch things up a little bit because I want to talk with you about social media. Yep, a whole episode just about social media, and more specifically, how it could actually be causing more harm than good for all of us, really, but for the business owners, especially those entrepreneurs out there. So stay tuned. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Unstuck. Thank you all so much for joining me on this episode and every other episode that you tune into. I'm Shawn, your host, and this is your safe space in the podcast world to learn more about yourself and grow and get unstuck and start living towards your dream life every single day of the week. Today, like I said, I was a little hesitant, to be honest, to share this episode, but, I did a poll, as I always do when I'm not quite sure what the answer is. I did a poll over on my Unstuck Entrepreneur Instagram story, and I got 100% of the people that wanted this episode, wanted me to talk about social media and what I learned. Well, I guess I don't even know if I would say it's what I learned, because I knew this in my heart and even just very obviously knew all of this. But I was reminded of in the past week when I took a little social media detox, took a little break from social media, didn't check Instagram, didn't check Facebook. I don't even check Facebook on the regular, but Instagram is my main source of social media. So really, when I say social media and taking a break and what I learned and how I spend my time, I'm talking about Instagram for me, but the same thing applies to all social media platforms. There are so many these days. I can't even keep up. I don't even know all of them, I'm sure. But no matter what it is that you find yourself being involved in, or where you think might be a good place for you to be in terms of your business and where your dream clients hang out, we need to really think about things fully, I guess, and really make sure that what you are doing is intentional and inspirational and from the right place when it comes to social media. So that is why I'm here. That is why I'm doing this episode. I wasn't really planning on it, but then as I really was almost making a list in my head of all these things that came to me that were so helpful for me to understand this new relationship that I'm choosing to have with social media, and how not having that in the past had really been causing more harm than good in my business. Because I can just be honest with you right now, the only reason that I'm on social media at all is because I'm an entrepreneur. If I didn't have a business, if I was just out in the working world, I wouldn't have it. I would maybe check Instagram and put pictures of my dog up occasionally, and I would check Instagram maybe once a month to check in on some friends or something, but I wouldn't be in the place that I am today with social media if it weren't for having a business. So when I decided to do this episode, I did really want to focus on the entrepreneurs out there, because we are the ones who are feeling the pressure, I'd say, to do the right thing on social media, to get the right numbers, to get the right responses, and get the algorithm to work for us. And we use social media numbers a lot of times to determine our business success or how we think it's going to go, and if we have a valid plan or not. There's just a lot wrapped up with social media and business, because I'd venture to say that the vast, vast, vast majority of businesses, especially service-based businesses, have a social media account and use that as part of their marketing plan. A big part, in some cases, of their marketing plan. And that's the future of business. I don't think that that's going to go anywhere. So instead, it's a matter of really understanding your role, your plan, and what feels good to you. And also, and if you are a business client of mine, you know this through and through, making sure that your business is not reliant on social media, that you can keep things going and still grow and build and create the success you want, make the income that you want, regardless of your followers or how many people are liking or commenting or how many times you post per week. All of that stuff, that is something that I talk about quite a bit in Unstuck Entrepreneur with the ladies in there because it's important. It's so important for so many reasons. I don't even think we'll get into that today. I could talk just so much about that, but instead I want to turn the focus to be more so about what I recognized or relearned or realized over my social media break. And really what it comes down to is that I would say my time on Instagram was causing more harm than good in my business for the most part. So we're going to talk about that and why I came to that conclusion and where I'm at now and how I'm going to approach it a little bit differently. I should also say that I've been on social media, Instagram specifically, for 8 years for my business. So when I started my business, I also started social media. So from the very first day, I've been using that platform as a way to support my business and my business growth. Facebook, of course, I was on much earlier than that, and it was very much a personal thing. And, it's not something I use today really at all. But this was the longest break I've ever taken from social media, which was about 9 or 10 days in 8 years. So for the most part, I think I've only taken 4 or 5 week-long breaks in 8 years. And every other time, I'm posting pretty much every day. Back in the day before the algorithm, where it was just chronological, I was posting twice a day so that my followers would see something from me in the morning and then something from me in the afternoon or evening. I did that for a couple years. And then since the algorithm, have been posting on my feed a few times a week at least, and then posting on stories multiple times pretty much every day. I now take weekends off, or at least one day of the weekend off entirely. But other than that, I'm posting all the time, which a lot of you, I'm sure, follow me and know that, especially if you watch my stories, I'm always on there and posting more about kind of my personal life and what I'm doing throughout the day and that kind of thing. So in the past year, I'd say my relationship with social media has changed a lot. Now, not in a bad way or in a good way, it's just different. And it's just more so me really getting more in touch with myself and getting more in touch with how I want to feel and how I want to be, how I want my day to go, where I want my energy to go, my surroundings, what I'm experiencing, what I'm consuming, and how I'm feeling when I'm consuming those things. This all has just gotten, of course, as I'm doing more work on myself, gotten more and more prominent in my life and really getting protective of my energy and my time and my feelings, my emotions that I'm having throughout the day. So this past year, within this year, I've been trying to figure out how this is going to look for my business and how I want to continue showing up for you all and for other listeners or followers who may find my posts inspiring, which is a huge goal of mine, is to inspire others. So really working on that, and then over this break, coming to some major conclusions just in having that time to myself and being with myself and understanding how I want it to look in the future. So let's get into it. Now, I will say, with those of you listening, there's probably a pretty big spectrum of social media users out there, especially as entrepreneurs. There are those that use it a ton, like I did back in the day when I was posting twice a day, and you spend a ton of time on it, you follow a bunch of people, you connect with a bunch of people, you get a bunch of messages, you comment and like, and it's a very big place for you to not only share your work, but also to connect with others, which I think is by far the best place to do so and the best part of social media. But there's also a bunch of you out there that don't like it. You fear it. You don't want to use it. You don't want it to be a part of your business. You feel like you have to be on social media and you can't figure out how to make a relationship with it that works for you. And you feel stuck when it comes to social and your business. And then, of course, there's those in between. There's a whole variety of people in between that spectrum where maybe you do have a good relationship with it. You have a great dynamic with it. You are able to protect your time and energy while still being on social media, and you figured it out. And that's really where I'm looking to be right now. And so there's a bunch of people I'm talking to all at the same time. So there might be some of you who are using it a bunch, and then some who don't like it at all and don't want to use it at all. So just know that I'm trying to stay somewhere in between those, but you will still find yourself within everything I talk about today. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about in terms of the harm that social media may be causing, really in business, yes, but in life in general too, is that it is a huge distraction. I think we can all agree with that. We're all very aware of that. And for me, I noticed that the first couple days I wasn't on Instagram and I was still working and living my life and doing my thing, I kept wanting to reach for my phone and check on things as a way to get out of something I didn't want to do, as a way to get rid of some boredom, or when I was feeling like I needed a break, or I was feeling blocked in whatever I was writing or doing or creating. And so I just wanted to get away for a second. And it was a huge place for me to distract myself from what was going on in front of me. And to see how often I wanted to do that really just showed how much I was doing that in my everyday life before taking a break. And I'm a huge believer in creating first and then consuming. And here I am interrupting my creation time to consume as a way of distracting myself, as a way of not doing what I was supposed to be doing or my task for the day, and just adding more time to that and having to go back and forth between looking at what everyone else is creating that I'm now consuming over on social media to then going back to my computer in my world and trying to be like, okay, what was I doing? Where was I coming with this? What do I need to do? What do I want to say? Super distracting, and the time that it added to that, and just how much worse my work was in comparison to when I could just not have any option of other things to do besides create. I cannot tell you, I can't even describe how much more I got done in that week in terms of creation, creating new content for my business, which if you have a business, you are in the business of creating. We're always creating new things. We're always thinking up new ideas, new services, new products, new ways to promote those things. You have to be a creative person and you have to create. And I just had so much more clarity. I got so much more done in a shorter period of time. And it is amazing, amazing work. And I got into such a flow that my partner came home and she was like, oh, what'd you get done today? What'd you do? What'd you work on? And I was like, oh, I created this amazing thing, but I like barely even remember doing it. Like, I just read through it and it's so great. It's so amazing. And I don't even remember doing it. I was just in such a state of flow. And it was so good right out from the gate. And that wouldn't have happened had I been checking social media once an hour or once every 30 minutes or whatever our habits are, as I was getting to a point where things were no longer fun, or I couldn't think of the right word or whatever, just using that as a distraction. That wouldn't have happened. So I really see that as being a huge crutch that a lot of us use to get away from what the task at hand, and in doing so, making that task even harder, making it take even longer, and perhaps with lower quality at the end too. So that was a big eye-opener for me, and now I refuse. I will not look at social media until my work for the entire day is done. My creation for the entire day is done, because I do not want to disrupt my flow. I want to create. I am a creator. And I want to create the best stuff ever for all of you, for all of my future clients and customers. And that requires my full attention. That requires a state of flow for me that I cannot find if I have the distraction available to me at all times. So that is just something really to consider for you too, is how often are you interrupting this really important creation time or work time to be distracted by someone else's work? Just consider it. See what's going on for you. All right, the second thing I noticed, which kind of goes along with this, but just in so many different facets, is how big of a time suck social media is. And it is a time suck in the way of scrolling and being a consumer of content, but also at the same time on the content creation piece that goes with it, as being someone who is on social media, and more specifically on social media to promote themselves and their business and their services and their products and whatever. That takes a lot of time to figure out what you want to say, how often you want to post, what the picture is going to be, how you want to connect with people. Am I doing it right? Is this actually going to be the right thing to post? Are people going to respond? Am I going to get any engagement? No, I didn't. What did I do now? I did something wrong. Like, oh man, just the spiral that you can go into from the posting perspective, from being the person posting as an entrepreneur, is just, there's so much involved, and it can be such a time suck. And you end up spending an hour trying to create a post that people are going to see for 2 seconds at most, if that, and then never think about it again. And so is that the right use of time of that hour? I mean, I would say in some cases it might be, especially if you are promoting something or you've gotten everything else in your business dialed in to a T, and now all you have to do is work on promoting that and creating more of an audience, creating more interest and getting people to know, like, and trust you. if you got into that point in your business, then that hour to create an amazing post that maybe will capture people's attention for 5 seconds instead of 2 would potentially be worth it. But is that hour spent creating a post that doesn't really go anywhere, isn't really part of an overall strategic marketing plan for yourself, is that still the right use of that hour of time? Or would that hour of time be better used to create an amazing marketing plan that maybe does include some Instagram posts in the future, but in a more strategic fashion? Maybe that hour is best used to create something that you actually sell, that you actually make money on, or a high value freebie that people will love to provide their email address to receive, and then you can speak with them via email instead of hoping they happen to pass by your Instagram post and see what you're talking about and spend more than 2 seconds on it. So really understanding the value of your time as an entrepreneur and where are you at right now in that space to where you can best manage your time. And that includes scrolling. Is that 10 minutes every hour that then adds up and adds up and adds up, is that the best use of your time? So this is really a conversation of return on investment. And we talk about ROI a lot as far as monetary investments, but time is something we have to consider too, and so is our energy. It is a return on investment. So is that time investment giving you a great return in your business, or what would be the best way to spend that time in order to create the success that you want? Like I said, sometimes it will be social media. Absolutely. I'm not saying social media is going out or we shouldn't use it at all, or there's no reason for it, or it's not helpful. That's not what any of this conversation is saying. But what is the best return on investment today for you? And just think about that every day. The third thing, this was the first time I really noticed this when taking a break, is just how quiet my life was in the best way possible. And that's when I realized how much noise being on social media regularly creates in one's life, just in the voices. You know, you go on to social and you're hearing from hundreds of people and their voice and their life and their experience and what they think and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And there's just a lot of voices of people that we don't know, that we may not even agree with. And it's coming from every which way. It's coming from all angles. So when I take a break for over a week, I just can hear my own voice so much more. And it's just so quiet and so peaceful in life. And when you don't have that noise coming from all angles, you have the opportunity to really learn more and hear from your own self. And this will tie into the next one, which is having your inner voice be blocked a lot of times with social media. And it's because of this noise. The more external factors and external voices and external noise we have, the harder it is for us to hear our own inner voice, for us to tap in to our own intuition. And you all know how important, how much emphasis I place on the ability to use your own intuition and hear from your own inner self to make decisions, to determine the next move, to feel good about what you're doing, to really tap into the energetic expression that you want to put out into the world. We need that. It makes business decisions so much easier if you can hear your own inner voice. And it is so hard, even to the point of being impossible sometimes, to hear that inner voice when you are constantly bombarded with other people's voices. And so to have a break from the noise, to realize how much my own life is really super quiet, just even with having animals and a partner, and I don't have kids, so that probably helps cut down on some external noise. But then actually, even just as far as, this is so strange, but it's so true. There's construction going on in my building right now, and it's loud. But even with all of that, I still felt so much peace. I could immediately sense the quietness of my life, and then I was able to really tap in and hear myself. It was so important. I made some really important decisions in that time that I had been struggling with for a while because I couldn't get that intuitive answer, and now I know why. The next thing is a creative block, which you would almost kind of think that as you are looking through other people's creations, you would maybe get inspired for your own. But what I have found is the opposite to be true, especially for myself, for sure, but also in the people I work with, and just seeing them struggle with what to post, how it should look, what to say, what's going to resonate, what do I do? These questions that we have about our own creativity. And I think a lot of that comes from seeing everyone else's creations and then judging ourselves and our creations based on that. And we're going to talk a lot more about the judging part of that. So stay tuned for that in just a few minutes. But I do want to stay with this creative piece for just a second. Creation, as I mentioned, we are creative beings. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we are in the business of creation, and it could potentially be making it way harder for you to tap into your own creative spark when you are looking at everyone else's work. So think about that in terms of your own business and what you have or have not been able to create, and how you are consuming other people's content. And are you thinking in terms of like, oh, this is really inspiring, I feel like I could get a good idea off of this, or, oh, wow, I can't do that. Like, they're way cooler than me. They have way better ideas than me. Clearly my ideas suck. I am not a creative person. I will never be able to make good content or have a good Instagram feed that is cohesive and looks pretty like these people do. I'm just a failure. Like, just see what your voices say as you're consuming this content, and see if you need to put some measures in place to make sure that you, again, are creating before you consume. And especially if you are in the place right now where you are creating something big, whether it's a program or a course or a freebie, or you're starting a podcast, or you're writing a bunch of blog posts, or starting a YouTube channel, or something like that, that really needs some creative expression from you, needs some juice from you, limit your time to consuming other content if you are finding that it blocks your creativity. For me, that was the case. And as I took a break, as I said, I just got this tons of creative flow and was able to produce and crank out so much more than I would have on a regular week, because I was in that zone, because I was finally able to tap into my own intuition, my own creativity, my own ideas, my own energy, instead of hearing this noise from the outside world and letting that kind of dictate what I think I should or shouldn't do, how things should or shouldn't look, what I should or shouldn't say, all this stuff. It really can block us. All right, the last two, really three, we have three more. They all kind of are chunked together, I'd say, which is the idea of the stories that come up when we are viewing other people's lives so regularly. And of course, the highlight reel of other people's lives, which we know is what social media is, and yet it still can be hard and challenging to see that and then know our own lives and judge ourselves. What I notice often, and this was the case for me, because yes, I still have limiting beliefs all the time that I work through. The difference is I now notice immediately when they try to speak up through my ego, and I know to shut them down, but it still happens. And social media just makes them stronger. It almost like validates your limiting beliefs. We can easily get into a trap where we're using social media to determine our capabilities, our worth, how valid we are, how valid our business is, how valid your ideas are, or your approach, your capability of being successful, your capability or worth of making a certain amount of money, having a certain lifestyle, doing things right or wrong, how smart you are or not, how creative you are or are not, like all the things, even going a step further and in terms of like body image, how pretty you are or not, how skinny you are or not, how fit you are. I mean, just like literally everything. Every limiting belief that we have ever had about ourselves, we can find a way to make that a valid argument by looking at social media. Everything. Anything that you have ever thought about yourself that is just a belief can be validated if you're looking for it. And that is how our brains work. When we have a limiting belief, we will take in those things that validate it. So you're not seeing all of the small businesses that are working to make things happen, that are really trying to figure it out. You're only seeing those businesses that have already made their way to success, at least on your terms, what you determine success to be. You're not seeing the 6, 7, 10, 20 years it took for them to get there, or the people that are still in that place trying to get there. You really notice those people who are already there, and it validates the fact that you will never be that, or that it will take a lot of work, or you're not that kind of person, or you're not pretty enough to do that, or smart enough to do that, or XYZ. So it validates our limiting beliefs. Along with that, it often causes compare-itis. Talked about that here before, for sure. And when we talk in terms specifically of being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, trying to figure out your path to your version of success, yourself and your business will definitely never be enough. You will never be doing enough. You will never be smart enough, capable enough, strong enough, witty enough, funny enough, sweet enough, whatever. We could keep going, right? Anything enough if you follow people that you compare yourself to. That could be in even like a colleague, even a friend that went through the same program as you and now they're doing something differently than you. It could be someone, quote unquote, famous that is an inspiration to you, but yet you find yourself comparing your business to them, what you say, your stance, your ideas to theirs. And if you do that with your business specifically, obviously this extends way beyond entrepreneurship and business, and just compare-itis in general is rampant and also extremely damaging, and social media has only brought that to a head. It's only made it more and more and more obvious in our worlds. We really have the chance to get into this comparison trap and make ourselves feel terrible every second of every day, and that's scary. But when we talk specifically to entrepreneurs, you can also be doing this in your business, and it could be stopping your success. It could be keeping you from moving forward, keeping you from sharing openly your ideas, your services, what you offer, why you offer them, your story, keeping you from being vulnerable, which is really a key piece to developing know, like, and trust with your dream clients. And it's all just because we're spending so much time looking at other people's success or business or impact or ideas and comparing ourselves to them. And in the process, making it clear that we're not capable of that. It's not enough. We'll never be enough. It's never going to happen. And then here is the status of our business right there. And the last thing that goes along in this chunk is that we're using social media to validate if you're doing the right thing or not. I have a specific example of this. I was getting feedback from all over the place that I needed to start creating reels, basically in order to have a successful business, in order to get new eyes on my work, in order to build my following, in order to get an engaged following, all these stuff, you have to make reels. That's all I was hearing for months. And for me, I don't want to. I don't want to. It's not a good use of my time. I tried several times. It takes a really long time to do, and it's that return on investment is intense. So when we're talking in terms of time, and I don't want to do that. And so I kept feeling like, okay, well, I have to. Like, all these people are telling me I have to. And so then to spend some time away and just being away from having to feel that or think that or try to decide what a reel would even look like in my world or how it would even be cool or funny or whatever it's supposed to be, I come back a few days ago to Instagram and I'm doing a little scrolling, catching up, and I see these reels, and like the vast majority of them, when you've taken a step back and then come to them, the vast majority of them are really silly. Like, in terms of just, why would I spend time, my valuable time, watching people point to words with some music in the background or something? You know, it's like when you take a step back and get a little bit more in touch with how meaningful life is and how important everything in your own physical experience is for you at that moment, and then you go on to social and you see something like that. And trust me, I'm not saying anything negative about reels. I think a lot of them are super funny and quite entertaining, but then and also nothing against anyone that's using reels to point to words. That's also helpful for a lot of people, and some people would really like that. But for me, to see that and to spend my time consuming that doesn't make sense. So why would I create something that for me doesn't make sense in my own world or isn't something that I want to consume? And then it really all became clear to me that that's not my MO. That's not what's important to me. It's not something that fits in with my plan, and I can let it go. But a lot of times we tend to use social media as a place to determine the right thing to do or not, what should be done or not. And again, I'm going to use the word validation, which has come up a lot. So that must be a key piece here, and that we tend to use social media as a place to find validation. And we often don't find it there because we're looking externally instead of internally. So those are some of the things I relearned while I was away, while I took a step away. I hope that you can start to look at those things in your own experience and see if that applies in your case as well. For me, all of those applied. And so now my approach to social media is changing because I do not want that in my life anymore. I can see how that was causing more harm in my business than good because I was consuming instead of creating. I was getting in the way of my hearing from my inner voice. I was getting validation or not about ideas and what I wanted to do and how successful my business can be and what I had to do to get to that level of success. And all of this external noise that I do not want as I work to create the business of my dreams and to continue expanding on this business I already have. I can do that on my own. I don't need external factors. And in fact, when I get rid of that noise, it comes along a lot easier and a lot better. Just so much more depth and so much more of me in my work when I can stay focused and stay in my own space and appreciate my own space instead of looking to this outside world for a distraction. So just to wrap up, I'll tell you a little bit about what I plan to do moving forward with social media, because first of all, I do like it. I like connecting with you all. It's my favorite part. If we could just do like stories and DMs, that's what I would do. That's really what I do vast majority of the time, because I love connecting. I love talking back and forth with you all, getting to know you all better. And so that is something that I really missed, that I was excited to come back to, is to connect and create a little bit of a community on this giant, massive platform. So I will continue to do that and make that a part of my regular practice. When I came back from social break, the very first thing I did before I even looked at anything, scrolled, connected with people that had messaged me while I was gone, anything like that, the very first thing I did was go to my list of people I follow, and I unfollowed the majority of the people. The only people I now follow are people I find very, very inspiring. Like when I look at anything they post, I just feel inspiration, motivation, encouragement. I don't feel any negative vibe, any low vibe, any comparing, any I could never do that, or their life is better than mine, or anything like that. Even if it's someone I had followed for a really long time, even if it's someone I've met and we've had a connection before, even if it's someone that I used to feel very inspired by and now no longer do. I really got very, very picky about who I follow, what I will see in my feed when I do scroll. The next thing is that I am only going to be consuming social media content, as I said it before, after my work is done for the day, after I am done creating for the day. Now, if I still have to do some emails or, something a little monotonous and I'm done with my creation, then that's one thing. But for the most part, it's not going to be probably till I start making dinner or something. And then I will check in and see what messages I've gotten and stuff like that. But nothing will happen. I will not even be touching my phone anymore when I am trying to work, when I'm in this place of creation and being this business boss that requires my full attention, and honestly is way more fun and way better when I'm not constantly distracted. I will also only be posting on my social media feed when I feel fully inspired. There will be no more of this I need to post something today. What should it be? Let me consider it for 3 hours and then try to make a really cool graphic out of it. There will be none of that. I will post when I feel inspired. And now the good thing about this is that since I just created Unstuck Entrepreneur on Instagram, which if you're not already on there, go check it out and hang out with me. I promise it will be only inspiring things that you will feel motivated when you see it come across your feed. I have 20 pages of a Google Doc of things that I want to post to just an entrepreneur population, which is why I was having a really hard time not having Unstuck Entrepreneur on Instagram, because my personal account is all kinds of people, mostly nutrition people that have no desire whatsoever to have a business. So it wouldn't resonate with them. But to have this new space where I know it will resonate with you and encourage you and motivate you and inspire you, I have a lot that I'm very excited to share with you. So that will be a very regular occurrence over there and will be my primary focus, my primary place to hang out. on social because I really love it. I really love connecting with you all in terms of business and your business and entrepreneurship and that kind of stuff. And that's it. Just really making sure I stay super mindful. I do not pick up my phone unless I really am consciously doing so. And, to help with that, I have the Instagram app on like the 5th or 6th page of my phone, which I don't even have that many apps to fill those pages. They're just blank pages. But I have to scroll like 6 times before I get to my Instagram app. So it takes me that time to really check in and be like, is this the right time? Is this what I want to do? And go from there. And if I still feel that way, then I continue on. And if I don't, then I can put it back down and catch myself. And just one last thing. I mentioned this before, but I do want to make it clear for those of you who are like, well, what the heck? How am I supposed to build a business if I am trying to be more intentional on Instagram or social media? And for me and what I teach in Unstuck Entrepreneur and the business that I've created also, social media is the cherry on top. I think it's great. Like I said, I think it's going to be something people use for business for the long term. And it's a wonderful free resource to have some additional marketing for yourself and your services and your products and your business. But it's the cherry on top. That's how I teach social media. It's the cherry on top. It's not the everything. It's not the ice cream. It's not the whipped cream or the chocolate syrup. It's the cherry, which like ice cream sundaes are still delicious without the cherry. Am I right? So it's just that little additional thing that would be great to have, but no big deal either way. And that is social media for me. And I want you to think about it in terms of if social media, which it totally could, we've seen weird things happen. I think we all know how weird things can be these days. Social media could all be wiped out tomorrow. Instagram could go away. Facebook could go away. TikTok, Twitter, Clubhouse, all these things could just vanish. And where would you be then with your business? Would you still have a successful income producing business? Would you still have an audience? Would you still have leads to turn into potential customers and clients without social media? That's where we want to get to. That's the business that I have created for myself, which is great. And that's also what I teach my clients to create for themselves as well. So that's my stance on social media, which is why I now feel it's very possible and a really great idea for my business to create this intentional Instagram social media plan and stick with it because it's important. And it means I have more time to spend on things that are a greater return on investment in my world. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. As I said at the beginning, I know we're going off track a little bit with this, but I think it was really important to talk about something that I experienced myself that really made a difference and will continue to make a difference in my own business, my own life. All of this, as you can see, applies to life as well. It's not just for business. Like, it's really important to think about this in terms of your life and your relationships and your family and what you are spending your time on in your own space. And do you really want to spend this much time on an app when we have such a limited amount of time on this planet and in this lifetime? And how do you want to spend your time knowing that it's all really valuable? And yes, sometimes scrolling and seeing what your friends are up to and commenting on their kids and their pets and their vacations when we do that again and all that stuff is a really good use of your time. And sometimes it's not. And it's just up for you to determine that and be really intentional with it. All right, I will leave it at that. Thank you all so much for being here. And stay tuned because next week is when I will share what I created in that time. That is so good, so helpful. You all are going to love it. And it's free. And we get to hang out for an entire week together. So that will be announced next week. Be on the lookout. Join me here to get the details. And until next time, take care.